Good morning. Wednesday morning, August 4th. Welcome everyone this morning. We continue our study in Psalm 23. We'll see what names appear this morning. Dana Krieshock, first one on my screen this morning. Welcome to you. Stephanie Ellis, good to see you this morning. Welcome. Welcome everyone. Don Hoverson. Debbie King, good morning. There's my mom, good morning to you. Barbara Richardson, welcome. Lori Cares, good morning. Jonathan Cassis, good morning, good to see you this morning. Hope your drive back to Hollister was good and enjoyable. Jim and Kathy Fuente, good morning. Daryl and Suzanne, good to see you this morning. I have a good number this morning. Welcome everyone. Karen Lowe, good morning. So as we continue our study in Psalm 23, this is the shepherd's psalm, or maybe we could refer to it as the sheep psalm, because it's the perspective of the sheep, right? So David is declaring, up to this point, David has declared all the good things about his shepherd, that he has everything he needs because the Lord is his shepherd. And now we get to the part of the psalm that, it feels like the sheep has experienced all the good things, but there are also difficult, painful, fearful things in the sheep's experience. And it's found in this next phrase that the psalmist brings forward, and that is, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So the life of the shepherd and his flock, as we've already talked about, it's important for the shepherd to move his sheep and to various green pastures. You can't overgraze in one area. And one of the things that the book that Philip Keller wrote, that I'm also reading simultaneously to doing this study, is he brings out the idea that you have your winter grazing areas, which is usually closer to home, and then you have your summer grazing areas where you travel a greater distance to get up to higher elevations, which during the winter are covered with snow, but in the summer, as the snow melts, it yields to a lot more green pastures and high mountain meadows and so on. And we see this true even in our county. In the winter time, like in this property, the property right behind us is leased. The owner leases it to a cattle rancher who has cows on the property. And during the winter months when everything behind me is green, oftentimes to my right here, I'll pan the camera over and you'll see cows grazing on the hillside. But during the summer months when everything's all dried up and hot, there are no cows here. Why? Because the owner has taken them up to the summer grazing areas, which are often areas up in the high country, because there's a lot more access to green grass in those higher elevations. In the same way, the shepherd in the ancient Near East, during the summer times, will move his flocks up to the summer grazing areas in higher elevations where there's more green grass that haven't died in the heat of the summer. They're up there, and there's more access to snow melt and cooler temperatures and so on. But it necessitates traveling some great distances to get to these areas, and oftentimes you go through some treacherous times, and you're in exposure, and you have these dangers being out all the time from predators, from sudden storms, and things like this. So you are, or you're traveling a distance without water, in between water sources, so on. There's dangers when you're out there, and if you know me for any length of time, you know that I love traveling in the remote backcountry and spending many nights under the stars and traveling these types of roads. Now, I've never tended a flock, but I do know what it's like to travel between water sources, to go through valleys and up on mountains and find those mountain meadows and camp there and experience a lot of sometimes fears, sudden summer storms. I've experienced a sudden snowstorm in July in the high elevations, and that's just a part of traveling in those areas. And so David's description of his experience, because God is his shepherd, is that even in those difficult times, he does not fear. And it's, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear. And there's two components of that I want to bring forward that is so important. Is that David answers the question when he says, I shall not fear. Why? Because you are with me. The shepherd is there, present, and therefore it brings comfort to the sheep, though they are in a kind of a fearful, dangerous place. The shepherd's there, and he brings comfort. I will not fear because you are with me. Now, two things I just want to bring forward in the short time that we have. One is the necessity of valleys. To get to the summer pastures, to get to these areas, you have to travel through, you have to face exposure, you have to face predators, you have to face the valley of the shadow of death, painful times, trials. And in our life, there's no different. God has deemed it necessary for us. I don't know if it's because we live in a fallen world, or he just uses and leverages the fact that we live in evil times or an evil world. He leverages those things ultimately for our benefit. Time and time again, the scriptures talk about the benefit of difficulty, the benefit of trials, the benefit of painful experiences, in that it develops in us necessary character. We learn endurance, perseverance. We learn how to trust God, and so on. It's in the valley of the shadow of death that we grow. And this is absolutely necessary. And so I want to bring that out in the reality of David's comfort in the shepherd being with him. How would he know, possibly, that he's safe just because the shepherd's there, unless his experience has been tested? Like, oh yeah, we've been here before. Oh, we've camped under the stars many, many times, and the shepherd has always proven himself that his presence brings safety to me. He's always made sure that we've had water. He's always made sure that we've had adequate food. He's always made sure that when predators come around or when difficulties are, he's led us on the right path. How would David be so confident unless he's been in all those situations over and over and over again? It's the necessity. We have to go through the valley of the shadow of death over and over and over in order to deepen our trust, to deepen our faith, to build necessary character. God knows this. And it is hard. It's painful. None of us want to go through the valley of the shadow of death. It's no fun. And sometimes we mistakenly cry out to God, how could you allow this? And how, how difficult this is that you've allowed this painful experience in my life. And we treat it like it's something to question God's character about. And the writers of Scripture help us to see, and really life itself, when you think about the wisdom of life, we know this in experience, that the valleys are necessary. In any walk of life, we know that if there's like this green, new, young person in a position of responsibility, they are less trusted in their leadership compared to someone who knows the job in and out. They've been there for years. They've seen all the problems. They know all the solutions because of time. They've faced all the valleys over and over and over again. When you're in a situation, you're going to go to the one who's seasoned, the one who has all the experience, the one who's been tested and proven over and over and over again. That's the one you go to. We know intrinsically that the valleys are necessary for our own personal development, and we're just going to be better. We're going to be more mature. We're going to have character. You know a person when you've gone through a difficult time with them. And so, first of all, the valleys are necessary. We know this. They're painful. They're difficult. Nobody wants to go through. And David saying, I will not fear in this time because you are with me. It means the shepherd himself is tested and seasoned. And the sheep know the shepherd's voice, and the sheep are so familiar with the shepherd's presence and the safety and trust that they have developed with him, that fear just kind of goes away. Let me give you an example of this in an experience that I had with my daughter, Mackenzie. So because I love the outdoors so much, I oftentimes took our girls camping, just them and me. And one of my favorite things to do is sleep under the stars, not in a tent, though sometimes that's necessary for weather and so on, or blocking wind. But when you're not in a tent, you feel particularly vulnerable, especially at night. There's lots of sounds that happen in the forest and in the mountains at night. There's a lot of critters and animals that are nocturnal, and so when it's dark and you're unfamiliar with all those sounds, it's unsettling. And so I just know by experience, every time I would take them out camping and darkness would fall, how much they would want to be near me. As long as they were near me, they were okay, because they just knew I've been there so many times. They're looking at my demeanor, and I'm perfectly calm. This is no problem, and we're talking about it, and they can trust me because I'm their dad. They've known that I have sacrificed myself, and I have displayed consistent character in their lives since the time they were infants. That I have their best in mind. I'm gonna protect them. I'm gonna lead them into areas where I'm not gonna unnecessarily expose them to danger. And so as long as I'm there, they feel good about being out there in the wilderness. I invited Mackenzie to climb Mount Shasta with me, and when she was in high school, and as we trudged up the mountain, just snow covered, there was low clouds that moved in, and our visibility went to just 50 feet or something like that, and you couldn't tell where you were going. But I had been that way. It was my third time to go up that mountain. I knew the pass. I knew after 5 hours of hiking exactly where I was, because I knew the terrain. I could feel it, and the wind was blowing. It was snowing, and she was like, "What on earth are we doing on this mountain?" But because she was with her dad, whom she's been grown up camping with, and the wind's blowing, and it's single digits. It's cold. We're setting up the tent in the wind, and I'm promising her, once we get in the tent, it'll be a lot warmer. I promise. We'll get in our sleeping bags. We're okay. My words of assurance to her were tested. She's been in this place with me more than once. Maybe not to this extreme on the side of a snowy mountain, but because that had been tested in our previous trips, she'd been hunting with me. She'd been overnight with me in storms, with the wind howling in the mountains, and so in that moment, she could trust me. And even in that moment, there was like a little mini story within a story, is that we get in there and it's so cold. One of the blow-up pads that are really important to insulate you from the snow you're sleeping on, the valve stuck because the moisture from blowing it up formed ice and it wouldn't close completely. So one of the blow-up pads wouldn't stay inflated. So her dad took the one that wouldn't stay inflated, and he made sure that her pad was the good one and that she would stay warm in the night. She knew that her dad could be trusted for her best interest. And the shepherd going through the valley of the shadow of death can only be comforted if their experience with the shepherd is already been developed. And so that's why it's so important to do to well to know the shepherd in an intimate way. I just want to point out too in this psalm that up until this point the psalmist has spoken about the shepherd in third person. He is my shepherd. He leads me beside quiet waters. He knows all the right paths for his name's sake. But now David speaks in the valley of shadow of death. He goes to first, to more of an intimate language. You, even though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. There's a sense of intimacy. And in order to really not fear during these times and really to weather the most painful times of life, we must have cultivated an intimate relationship with the shepherd. We must have experienced his presence on a daily, regular basis. We must have searched the scriptures. We must have enjoyed communion with him. We must have experienced his faithfulness in previous times of difficulty. And as we go through every valley, we continue to develop that intimacy so that when we are in the next valley, we would fear no evil because, well, every valley to this point, God sure has been faithful. He's been my comforter. He's spoken words of wisdom to me to kind of navigate this dark time. He's been with me. He's proven himself on the other end of things. I know this trial is going to end at some point. This painful loss that I'm experiencing, God himself has experienced painful loss, and he is comforting me in that. It's only in this intimate relationship with the shepherd can we really trust him through the valleys. And so I love these images, and they really do make sense to us when we think about life. And so I hope that these ideas that David has brought forth to us in such poetic language continues to bring forth the trustworthiness of God. Look back over your life experience, how God has been faithful, and we cultivate that relationship every single day, so that the next valley that sometimes feels like just around the corner, we've already developed that relationship, and we can just trust him and know he has our best interest in mind. He loves us. He's already demonstrated his love toward us by sending his son to die for us while we were yet sinners. And that love just continues on. How much more will he express his love for us now that we have a relationship with him through our faith with him? So, enjoy those thoughts today. Ponder them more. We have one more day this week of this going through this psalm. So I'll see you again tomorrow morning. God bless you.